not doing them in necessarily in order of the way they were born, okay? We're doing it as they kind of come into the story, and in this case, the three of these that we're looking at tonight go together because of a certain situation that we're going to look at tonight that involved all three of them. Then of course, and the way that I'm going to do it though is, of course, we're fairly familiar with the account of Joseph. I'm going to leave him till last because I mean he's very good chance, very high probability, more than 1 week. So we will look at him last. But tonight we are going to look at 2 sons and 1 daughter, Simeon, Levi, and Dinah. Now, it is possible, that that Jacob had more than the 1 daughter, because remember, as we've been looking at this, daughters are usually never listed. That's just the way it was, and that's back then, especially one of the big reasons was because it was the male that carries on the family name, not the female. Of course, the female get married, I guess you could say loses. I don't know if that's the word to use, but takes on a new name. But yeah, that's the nice way to put it. Our identity. Yeah. Well, just thinking of it that way, yeah.
My mother always.
I was gonna say loses their identity and gains the identity of their husband. Wow, can that be a scary thought? Perfect timing for her to have to cough, right? But anyways, as we have looked at Jacob, obviously, we have certainly not seen a very devout, godly Christian man. In fact, we have seen quite the opposite, okay? That started right from his birth. And we are seeing you could say some of the repercussions, okay, of him and his, I don't know how to put it, his lack of spirituality, his lack of really relying on God and making sure God is fully taught to his children, raising his children right. We really see that, and we're going to see that in multiple of his children, but even more, some more so than others, but we're seeing that tonight in Levi, Simeon, and Dinah. First, I'll give you a few facts before we get into the reading itself. So Levi was the 3rd son of Jacob and Leah. He had 4 children: Gershon, Kohath, Merari, and Jochebed. He was the father of the Levites. Of course, we know that they were the ones who would take care of the temple and that sort of thing in the future. And then Simeon was the 2nd son of Jacob and Leah. He had 6 sons: Jemuel, Jamin, Ohad, Jachin, Zohar, and Shaul. Now, the one thing about Simeon and Levi is not only were they brothers, they were also really best of friends. But unfortunately, it went almost beyond best of friends and went to the term that you could say would be cohorts, brothers in arms, that sort of thing. They were typically known for getting in trouble. Stuff that was, things that were especially of more Simeon than Levi. Things that have been, say, gone through that are in historical records, so not the Bible, okay? Historical records, was that Simeon was one that was to be feared. He was a very strong man, a very powerful man, and had a very powerful voice, okay? Legend, okay? Take this for as it is. Legend is, okay, get this, is that he had such a powerful, strong voice that he at one point used that to his advantage. Was able to use acoustics in the valley or whatever to, just with his one voice, was able to make a whole army flee. Don't know how much truth there is to that. You know how things can, if you've ever played the old game Telephone, starts out as one thing and the more people it gets through, the more distorted, it becomes where it's something totally different. So, like I said, take it for what it's worth. It's legend. We don't know how much truth there is to that, but it is listed that he was a very powerful man, one that was to be feared. And we do see in his life, especially in the beginning of his life, we see him really self-will. He did really what he wanted. He let his emotions control him. But later on in his life would be one of sacrifice. We'll mention it a little bit tonight, but then you'll see it again when we look at Joseph's life. Let's see. And then looking at Dinah, obviously daughter of Jacob and Leah. So they were, what would you call it, full-blood siblings. And according to history, it's not listed in the Bible. According to history, Dinah had 3 children. That's the most that we know of it, okay? And the only other things that we know about Dinah are what we are going to see in chapter 34 here. So let's pick up this account as we look at Levi, Simeon, and Dinah. Chapter 34, in some areas, you'll notice we'll go verse by verse. Others, it might be a little bit longer, a few verses at a time. And Dinah, the daughter of Leah, which she bare unto Jacob, went out to see the daughters of the land. Okay, so I'm going to stop right there. One verse, let's stop. So what's going on here, so that way you can get this whole picture, is, now we do not know exactly how old Dinah is. At this time, we know that Simeon and Levi were most likely roughly early 20s, okay? And Dinah was, if I remember right, Dinah is younger than both of them. So they, of course, look on her as she's their little sister, and they are protective older brothers, okay? So at this point, if you remember the life of Jacob, he was very good at disobeying, okay? Not being where he should when he should be there. And thus that also led to all of his children, including Dinah, seeing a lot of the what we'll call worldly, practices and things going on. And because of that, she was getting bored at home. Like I said, we don't know. I mean, it's possible that she was the only daughter. So especially if she's the only daughter, she's surrounded by all these boys. Occasionally in their travels, she would see women from the other cultures around. And so it's at this point we see what she's doing is she went out to see the daughters of the land. She went out just to see how essentially go sightseeing. She's like, I'm bored at home. I want to see something new. I'm going to go and see how the other girls my age, what they're doing, what they do with themselves, how they live. Okay, that's what she's doing. She goes out, that is her purpose, okay? Essentially, it's just to go sightseeing. She's not real schooled or versed on exactly what goes on. Right in verse 2, when Shechem, the son of Hamor the Hivite, prince of the country, saw her, he took her and lay with her and defiled her. And his soul clave unto Dinah, the daughter of Jacob. And he loved the damsel and spake kindly unto the damsel. Stop there again. So she goes in. Now, it is possible that with her going and trying to, I'll use the term hang out, okay? Hang out with these, spend time around with these other girls her age, she might try and do what she can to look as much like them as possible, which it could possibly go as far as possibly, how can I put it, maybe wearing more revealing clothes maybe, or something like that. We don't, but anyways, relating to them as much as possible. Well, whatever the circumstance here, you have Prince Shechem, that he obviously, prince, wealthy boy, saw her, and he did what we call the unthinkable. First, he kidnapped her, then he raped her. And when he, so originally, when he started out, it was just that carnal, that lustful desire that he was after. However, after laying with her, something was different. For him to have committed that act, typically would tell me one big thing about him. It was not his first time, most likely, in doing that. However, it was different with Dinah. And we see that in verse 3. It's where it says, and his soul clave unto Dinah, the daughter of Jacob. He loved the damsel, spake kindly unto her. This one was different. He fell in love with her. It was that, I'll use the term falling in love at first sight sort of thing. Cassie and I always make the joke with us because I say that, you know how they say, the quickest way to a man's heart is through his stomach. Well, first date, when I went to go and pick up Cassie, she comes walking out of the front door with a gallon-sized baggie of homemade cookies. It's just like, well, that's a done deal. I know that's the woman I'm marrying. But anyways, this is kind of, in a way, you could say, the situation that happened, in a sense, is anyways, he fell in love with her. His soul clave unto her. So it went beyond a thing of, it went beyond just the carnal. It went beyond, even beyond a puppy love. Okay, it was something where he felt that this love that he had for her was one of, he felt like he just could not live without her. That's what it means by his soul clave unto her. And we see right in verse 4 that what he does, being a spoiled rich boy, does he approach Jacob on his own and, admit what he would have done, just say, but you know what? I fall in love with her. I can't live without her. No, he goes to daddy. Verse 4, spake unto his father Hamor, saying, get me this damsel to wife. And so, really to put together the next several verses, okay? Hamor, his father, goes to Jacob to commune with him. It says that right in verse 6. He goes to sit down with him. Whether it be just a thing of sitting down in the shade with a nice cold glass of lemonade, or whether it was a meal. Either way, it was communing. It would have been just the two of them. And he told Jacob what had happened. However, but even though it started off a bad thing, his son wanted to make it right. His son loved Jacob's daughter, and was asking if essentially, would it be all right? Can they wed? Can they get married? And the one thing that Jacob did, and we see it, verse 5. Jacob heard that he had defiled Dinah his daughter. Now his sons were with his cattle in the field, and Jacob held his peace until they were come. Now, when I first read that, it struck me as, okay, what kind? I don't get this. Why would he keep it to himself? Make sure they didn't know. Well, that's most likely because he knew his sons all too well. That's what I came as I was studying this and seeing everything that we'll look at tonight. He knew his sons all too well. These two sons, different people in the family, especially when you have a large family like his, different sons would be in charge of different things. And as far as we can tell, these two sons were the two that were protectors of the family, meaning they were trained in the use of sword. They were for battle to be able to protect the family. But he also knew that these two boys fed off of each other. These two, and one of them had definitely had an anger issue. And so it was, now that after studying it, like I said, I really think it was a wise choice at this point for him to try and keep it from Simeon and Levi. However, it did not work. Word got out, so there must have been somebody listening into this conversation, and word got to his sons that were out in the Simeon and Levi, that were out in the fields at that time. Oh, okay. Verse 7, and the sons of Jacob came out of the field when they heard it, and the men were grieved. They were very wroth, because he had wrought folly in Israel in lying with Jacob's daughter, which thing ought not to be done. So these boys were, these big brothers, they were mad. But they were beyond mad. They were, as I've told you many times, I love going to the Old Webster's Dictionary to see what these, especially older words, really actually mean. Okay? Wroth means very angry, much exasperated. Well then, where does my mind go being mean? What exactly does exasperated mean? It means highly enraged, increased in violence. Okay? So this wrath, they weren't just mad. It was one where they were so angry, they were ready and wanted to kill. Exactly. And so it is at this point that most likely the boys are talking amongst themselves, planning on what they might do. And it goes on in verse 8. It's talking about this is when Hamor is now the boys are coming from the field. Okay, Hamor is now not just with Jacob. We know at least Simeon and Levi are there, because it says, and Hamor communed with them, saying, the soul of my son Shechem longeth for your daughter. Now, the reason why he would have still said with your daughter, even though the brothers were there, he would have been still addressing Jacob. Even though the boys were there, he would still be addressing Jacob. That's why it says daughter, it doesn't say sister. I pray you give him to wife, and make ye marriages with us, and give your daughters unto us, and take our daughters unto you, and ye shall dwell with us, and the land shall be before you. Dwell and trade ye therein, and get you possessions therein. And Shechem said unto her father and unto her brethren, let me find grace in your eyes, and what ye shall say unto me I will give. Ask me never so much dowry and gift, and I will give according as ye shall say unto me, but give me the damsel to wife. So the first thing is, Hamor, Prince Shechem's father, comes in and says, look, with what is going on here, with this marriage, we will be open up to trade. You are going to be fully welcome here. You will be one of us. You can marry in amongst us. That sort of thing, which of course, no matter what, that's a big no-no for Jacob's family, okay? And just want to make sure that you guys remember that. They were to be strangers in the land, okay? And then, whether, maybe it's, maybe Prince Shechem is looking and, okay, they're not responding well, maybe, to his father, what his father is saying. So that's when Prince Shechem steps up to the plate. And the first thing that he says, let me find grace in your eyes. That is essentially him giving an apology first, saying, look, let me find grace in your eyes. I know what I did was wrong. However, I love her. I will make right of that. And, I want to marry her, that sort of thing. And then he does go in, being a typical one that is wealthy, then goes right into, as far as talking about dowry, saying, look, don't hold back. Whatever you want as a dowry, you can have. Just say it, and it will be yours. All I care about is being able to marry her. I don't care what I have to do. I don't care what I might have to pay. I just want the end result to be me married to Dinah. Now, this is where the plan that these boys put together starts to come into play here. Verse 13, and the sons of Jacob answered Shechem and Hamor his father deceitfully, and said, because he had defiled Dinah their sister. And they said unto them, we cannot do this thing, to give our sister to one that is uncircumcised, for that were a reproach unto us. But in this will we consent unto you, if ye will be as we be, that every male of you be circumcised, then will we give our daughters unto you, and we will take your daughters to us, and we will dwell with you, and we will become one people. But if you will not hearken unto us to be circumcised, then will we take our daughter, and we will be gone. What this plan is, it's making it, the plan is made to look like one that is all on the spiritual side, like they're trying to be godly. Okay, you'll see in a few minutes that's certainly not the case, and that's why, just as we began reading these few verses here, it says they answered deceitfully, okay? They're coming in and they're saying, look, to be one of us, for our families to be able to marry together, no matter what, you had to be circumcised. Now what was, we'll put it in layman's terms, what was the real picture of circumcision? What picture did that give? That essentially, what we would call in today's terms, really getting down to nitty-gritty, it was basically saying, if you were part of that group that was circumcised, you were part of the chosen ones, or you were saved. Okay, we'll put it that way. Okay, that was a picture of that, okay? However, that circumcision came when you were made that commitment to God. Not when you're, this all has to do, there's no God being mentioned here. You see that. There is no sort of conversion, over to this. It was just, you get circumcised, and then we'll go ahead and do it. If you're not willing to do it, and not just you, Shechem, not just you and your father, all of the men in your family, in your city, in that area, all of them have to be circumcised. Once they have all done this, then we will agree to it. But what they're saying is if so much as one refuses, we're taking Dinah and we are leaving. Well, it ends up that verse 18, their words pleased Hamor and Shechem. And then the next few verses, I'll sum it up, okay? They went back to their hometown, back to their family. They convinced every single man there to get circumcised. And man would have been typically any male. It really depended on their maturity, but young teenage and up typically is what it was. Every one of them got circumcised, and which made them think, okay, we're in a great, wonderful spot. One thing that was given when they were when they were convincing the other men of the city and everything to go through with this, verse 23, shall not their cattle and their substance and every beast of theirs be ours? Only let us consent unto them, and they will dwell with us. They're saying, look, with them comes more. Okay? It's going to make everyone, by combining us, it's going to make us a much wealthier people. Okay? So even still, so as you can see, even more, no God mentioned whatsoever. It's just a religious act, you could say. Just a I don't want to call it a habit. A rite, almost like a rite of passage sort of thing. Okay, nothing truly spiritual in this at all. Just a ritual, that hey, if you do this, yeah, it'll be painful at first, but then you know what? We'll be good. We'll be so much better after that. In verse 24, it says that they all went out. Every male was circumcised. All that went out of the gate of his city. So anyone that was there, all of them got circumcised. And then verse 25 is where we see what the deception was in the boys saying, let all your men be circumcised, and we'll allow it. And it came to pass on the third day, when they were sore, that two of the sons of Jacob, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brethren, took every man his sword, came upon the city boldly, and slew all the males. So 3 days after this, they waited to make sure that all of the men had been circumcised, and they are now just starting to heal. In other words, they're going to be very uncomfortable. They're going to be walking funny, that sort of thing, meaning what? They are going to be useless if they are attacked. Simeon and Levi went in, drew their swords, and just the two of them killed all of the men in that city by themselves. I mean, maybe this comes with being a father, and then I have a little sister, My sister used her big brother to her advantage at times. I could tell you stories there, don't have time tonight, but And, but so to a point, my mind goes, almost goes to that point of, oh, good for you, big brothers, protecting your younger sister. Well, you know what? Didn't they go in a little excess? I mean, first of all, no matter what, they went a little bit of excess there, didn't they?
You can see the father coming out of them, though, the deception was terrible.
Yes. Jacob, trickster.
Yeah,
And that is what they're, yes. And, and so they went in, they killed all the males. They slew Hamor, Shechem, his son, with the edge of the sword, took Dinah out of Shechem's house, and went out. Now this is one other thing that I find interesting too, is that through this, that went, it was a few days time, from start to, we'll call this right here, finish. You notice that whether it's because she wanted to stay or not, Dinah stayed with them, or they did not release her and go say, well, look, here's your daughter, we're so sorry that this happened. There's nothing of Prince Shechem saying, I'm sorry, here's your daughter, I want to marry her. All we know of is that she is back. She was not there for we'll call it negotiations, okay? She was not there for it, whether it's of her own will or not. She was kept back at their place. So they took her out. And then, verse 27, the sons of Jacob came upon the slain and spoiled the city because they had defiled their sister. When I first read this and I first started looking into this, my mind immediately went to Simeon and Levi. That's not who it's speaking about here. It's talking about all the other brothers, so half brothers and that sort of thing, okay? Because if it had been talking about Hamor and Shechem, I'm sorry, Levi and Simeon, it would have said that they killed all the men and they spoiled the city. No. You notice it says the sons of Jacob came upon the slain. This is talking about the other brothers coming in after seeing all the men dead, and it is at that point they decide they're going to step in and do their part. And that is when they collect all the spoils. Verse 28, they took the sheep, their oxen, and their asses, and that which was in the city, and that which was in the field, all their wealth, and all their little ones, and their wives took they captive, and spoiled even all that was in the house. They went and took absolutely everything. Now, when it says they took the children and wives captive, this is the last that's mentioned of it. I don't know if it's something where they took them captive and then eventually released them, or if they then became the help, if you want to call it that, slaves or workers, or how it was. Servants, we don't know. However, it was the other brothers that came in and took of the spoils. And Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, verse 30, "You have troubled me. You have troubled me to make me to stink among the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanites and the Perizzites. And I, being few in number, they shall gather themselves together against me and slay me, and I shall be destroyed, I and my house." Jacob is going to them with two main thoughts here. First one being, I am trying to have, or we want our name to be a good name. And you have seriously tarnished it. Now, his name already was not the greatest of names, because it's Jacob we're talking about here. However, that doesn't matter. What his sons just did put a major tarnish on his name. And the second thing is we might have a good group here. You two are awesome swordsmen. However, we are small compared to these other groups of people. When they find out, they could come and easily wipe us out. Now, two thoughts I'm going to give you real quick on that with what Jacob said there. Had Jacob totally forgotten that of the promise that God had given, that that God would protect him and that? It's possible. Or it very well may have been another thing because remember, Jacob being a deceitful one by nature may have thought, well, with this sort of action in my family, God may have went and said, okay, you're not worth it. I'm taking this away from you. Okay? Either way, he had this fear in him because of what his sons had done. In verse 31, before we read it, the last verse of the chapter, after him having this talk with his boys, you might think that the boys would go and say, it's after the fact. They will have, their adrenaline has dropped by this time. It's just, okay. They might be in their right minds, if you might say. Go and look back on it. As they say, hindsight is 20/20. Go and look and say, oh, I didn't think of that. We are so sorry, Father. We did not consider that at all. We were just thinking of how much we love our little sister, want to protect her. We were blinded by that. No. There is absolutely no remorse or anything to be seen in these brothers at all. Verse 31, they said, should he deal with our sister as with a harlot, meaning like a prostitute? Okay? They have so much anger and resentment in them that it does not matter to them. Now, however, okay, I want to go and point out a couple of things about Levi and Simeon and the tribes that come from them. This will be quick. Levi, remember, is the Levites. The Levites, priestly. You think, wait a second, priestly. One thing that Levi was more of the two. Levi was more the follower. Simeon was the headstrong one. He was the leader. And Levi was just very easily influenced by Simeon. Levi was a man that he actually preferred isolation, and but he stood up for what he believed was right. Okay? So, that going into account, okay, there was a, you could say there was a curse. Could say, it says it right there in the Bible. There's a curse that was given to these boys. Okay, let's look at that real quick. Genesis chapter 49. Right to the end of the book. Genesis chapter 49. Jacob is on his deathbed here. 49 verses 5 through 7. Simeon and Levi are brethren. Instruments of cruelty are in their habitations. O my soul, come not thou into their secret, unto their assembly. Mine honor, be not thou united. For in their anger they slew a man, and in their self-will they digged down a wall. Cursed be their anger, for it was fierce, and their wrath, for it was cruel. I will divide them in Jacob, and scatter them in Israel. He is giving out his blessings to all his children. He is on his deathbed. Jacob is here at this point. And the way it always goes is he starts with the oldest of all of the sons, goes down through. So he is right here. He is at Simeon and Levi. And he is saying, because of this, because of these actions of when you were, it was years, many years prior, when you were young, because of these, there is a curse. Now, many people say that they themselves were cursed. Not so much, okay? First of all, you notice it says, verse 7, cursed be their anger, for it was fierce, and their wrath, for it was cruel. So what it was more a thing of cursing, okay, their anger and their wrath. However, they themselves, some people say, oh, well, they were still cursed. It wasn't necessarily a curse, more as they got a spanking for their actions, okay? What it was is that they would be scattered. The way the Levites were scattered, the Levites, remember, they did not, they were the religious part, the temple people. So they were scattered in amongst all the tribes. They were not necessarily just one tribe by themselves. They were scattered throughout all. And the Simeonites, there is no record on the Simeonites. They just sort of drop off the map. They just drop out of the picture. It's speculation as to whether they were, being headstrong and strong people like to war. Maybe they got cocky and went up against someone they couldn't, and they got wiped out, or they just kept marrying out and just dispersed off into all the other people in that. Not sure, but they did fall out of the way. If you go and look at, there was, while they were recorded, they did have a portion of land, one of the smallest, actually, the Simeonites did, that was to them in the what we would call the promised land. Later on in the Bible, it's referred to as the promised land, okay? They did have, however, they were surrounded by by Judah, one of their brothers, surrounded by his clan to try and keep control of them, if you may say. But like I said, they did, however many generations down, they did just essentially disappear. One other thing I wanted to mention on Simeon, though, being young man, he let his self-will really, as we saw, and his anger really control him. One thing that we will see when we look at Joseph in a few weeks, we will see this strong guy who is, say, feared, allows himself to be bound, to be tied up, taken as prisoner, allows himself to be in front of the rest of his brothers. We will, like I said, we will see that in a few weeks when we look at when we start looking into the account of his brother Joseph. This is, like I said, this is one of these accounts that we're going to look at that's certainly not a pretty one, does not paint a good picture at all. Unfortunately, these are not the only children that went in that way of being bad, of being known for bad things. We will see that again, unfortunately. But so that is Levi, Simeon, and Dinah.
And that's the Dinah that becomes a prophet? No.
No, because we don't know. This Dinah is different. We don't know anything about her. Like there is nothing recorded in the Bible.
Deborah is the one.
Okay, Deborah's who you're thinking of. Yeah. We don't know anything other than what we just saw tonight. We don't know anything about Dinah. And that's why I mentioned earlier that according to history, not even though I think one of the greatest history books is right here, I'm talking about according to secular history, what was recorded from, passed down through generations and stuff, recorded in more of a city's archives, if you want to call it, something like that, outside of the Bible, was that she had 3 children, one of which came from the rape. With that, what that came with it was that her brothers wanted to actually kill that baby when it was born. She would not allow it. So, but that's all outside the Bible. So take it as you will. But that's all that we know of Dinah. There's nothing else listed of her at all. Any other questions or anything about tonight? No? Okay, let's close in prayer. Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for your Bible. Lord, we thank you for this, these accounts, Lord, that you give to us. Lord, even though some may be very uplifting, Lord, others, as this one, is definitely far from that. But Lord, as we look at these different accounts, Lord, even these real negative ones, may we all learn, Lord, something from them. Be able to take at least some little snippet from it and be able to grow from it and learn from these mistakes that were made from others or made by others. And Lord, I just ask your blessing to, Lord, on these people tonight. Lord, as we go throughout the week, Lord, may we be strong in our faith. Lord, if the time arises, if when the Holy Spirit may prick our hearts to talk to someone, Lord, may we not ignore it. Lord, may we, Lord, just give us the strength, give us the boldness to be able to share you with those that need to hear it. We ask all these in your name. Amen.
When you were talking about relating about the telephone game
Yep.
and everything, I was reading on Facebook today. It was very interesting. It's about the Von Trapp family.